Assemblymember Mia Bonta, thank you so much for making time for us.
Absolutely. Thank you for exploring this issue.
I want to ask you because of the claims that are being made, did you write AB 2624 to try to stop citizen journalists from doing their jobs, essentially?
No, absolutely not. I moved forward with this bill because I was hearing from immigrant service providers who were struggling with the reality of being attacked and harassed and were fearful for their lives in a time when political toxicity can be overwhelming. And I wanted to be able to ensure that they had the ability to feel protected proactively.
And we're talking about the state's Safe at Home program that requires essentially verified, documented threats. And what specifically, which immigrant organizations that are providing these services, like who exactly is defined by that?
So the Safe at Home program, just for some context, is a 28-year-old California program. Started out with ensuring that people who were survivors of domestic violence would be able to protect their information, their mailing address, and their voter registration. And then it went on to protect people who were providing gender-affirming care, people who are abortion care providers, people who are experiencing other kind of sexual violence. We wanted to be able to add, as a group to the Safe at Home program, immigrant service providers. So those are attorneys and lawyers, advocates, frontline workers who are in centers trying to make sure that people have adequate coverage right now if they are being targeted as immigrants.
When did the threats, from your understanding, start to pick up, or at least when did your office start to really get wind that this was happening?
And that question right there is really the impetus for this bill. So in the summer, around the time of the mass immigration raids that were happening in LA, we started to get feedback from a lot of providers that they were under attack. Their offices were being invaded, their staff were not feeling safe and being able to go to lunch. Executive director of one immigrant serving organization, Tirla, that you mentioned, talked about the fact that she was doxxed and that people showed up at her supposed home that was listed as an address privately, and it was where her mother was. And so it was really around the time where there was this uptick of incredible harm coming to the immigrant community in the summer.
Okay.
In the summer.
During the and you said invaded, an office was invaded, like one of them?
I don't know.
Sure.
I won't name the organization, but yes.
Okay. And then when this bill got started in its hearings, there was no registered opposition. I want to confirm, you didn't hear from groups about the First Amendment concern. You noted that gender-affirming care providers, abortion providers, they have these similar protections. You hadn't heard anything before a week ago.
This bill has gone through 3 committees. Those committees and their hearings have been public. There has been no registered opposition for any of those committees.
What do you make of everything you probably saw online within the last week and a half, coupled with the fact that, no opposition showed up to the first hearing, no opposition showed up to the second hearing, and then the third hearing, one person showed up to sort of understand what was going on. Right. What's your reaction to those two different split screens, I would say?
I think we are living in a time right now where it's very easy to have people feel like they want to have an enemy, that their lives are hard, they're not understanding why life is so hard for them right now, and they are looking to identify a villain, identify somebody to point the finger at and say, because of your existence, I'm hurting. And I think the split screen comes around the fact that we had a legislator in their comments around this bill during a hearing decide to identify a villain. First, partially that villain is me, right? I got called a bully by that legislator during that time, and then that villain, in the reference that legislator decided to use, were people who were operators of a particular a child care center or learning centers who were of Somali descent, operators who were of Armenian descent. And so there was an intentional push to basically point the finger at immigrant people, very different from a conversation around immigrant service providers, I will note, first of all. And secondly, I think that there was a need to be able to perhaps not drive policy, but to drive clicks on social media and clicks onto one's fundraising pages.
What was your reaction when you saw that like Nick Shirley showed up to the Capitol and all this information was going around online?
My first reaction was, who's Nick Shirley? My apologies, I don't live in social media and probably don't live in the same spaces in social media where people who would know about Nick Shirley know about Nick Shirley. So the first was, who's Nick Shirley? Second reaction was just really sadness, to be honest with you. For him to have shown up, it means that we would have had to have a complete bastardization of our legislative process, and we would have had to have somebody completely misinform the public, and quite frankly, Nick Shirley, likely, about what the intention of the bill was, which has nothing to do at all with trying to impede everyday individuals or journalists for sure from being able to investigate where we are operating in a way as private actors or public actors in a way that is illegal.
The Freedom of Speech group, FIRE, came out yesterday and essentially analyzed the bill, said that yes, you are trying to ensure, you're trying to protect immigrant service providers, but there's also some First Amendment concerns around censorship, potentially of newsworthy content, questions around potentially how it could impact citizen journalists. What's your response to that assessment?
First response is, I am very thankful when people want to actually engage on the policy. So thank you to FIRE for raising some concerns. I think that there are some ways in which FIRE got it right, where there is an opportunity for us to be able to strengthen and tighten the language so that it's imminently clear, although it's very clear from the language that we don't intend to impact or impede journalists from being able to do their jobs. And there are some ways in which there are references to pluvius or the other cases was probably not quite right. So this particular scenario is around private citizens, private actors, or immigrant service providers needing to be able to have proactive protection for when there is legitimate harm completed and demonstrated against them. And they deserve to be protected. I think the cases that FIRE outlined were not quite the particular scenario that we're addressing. And at the end of the day, I am not trying to define who a citizen journalist is. I'm not trying to have anything to do with that, quite honestly. I want to be about protecting immigrant service providers with this piece of legislation, and I think that's what it does.
Chirla has had some scrutiny from Republicans in the House. There's been, I understand there are allegations against the group as it relates to the protests and their involvement, allegedly unverified claims that they helped dox ICE agents. Did the sponsor of the bill make this complicated, or is that another thread in sort of this whole kerfuffle online?
I imagine that it might, for some, have created some concerns. Chirla is, from my perspective, a very worthy organization that is doing God's work right now in this moment in time, as are all of our immigrant service providers. And so perhaps in some people's eyes that might have created some kerfuffle. But I stand behind Chirla. I stand behind all of the organizations that do the amazing work of protecting vulnerable communities, and I believe that they should not have to live in the shadows. I believe that they should not be fearful to do the work that they do, and I believe that we need them to do the work that they do.
And at the same time, to underscore essentially what you've been saying, if someone wanted to investigate the use of taxpayer money associated with your bill would not stop that from happening.
My bill in no way would stop any organization from being investigated, and certainly doesn't stop any journalist from engaging in the very important work that journalists do to uncover truth. And to actually say that a citizen journalist would be captured in this legislation would also have to insinuate that that citizen journalist is committing repeated harassment, is engaging in actions that would require them to be objectively and reasonably found to be focused on committing bodily harm against an individual, and would be focused on committing harm against another person. I don't think that that's what citizen journalists who are trying to be truth seekers are about. So in no way would Nick Shirley or any ounce of footage I understand that he's posted have been captured in this legislation, because he's on his particular mission.
Is there anything else you think we should know about your bill, the process moving forward? I mean, do you anticipate making tweaks to it, changes?
I think, as you know, this is early in the legislative process. I think we had 3 weeks of going to 3 different committees. A lot of the legislative language that we intend to make sure to clarify some of the areas, for instance, that fire raised, will certainly be in additional versions of the bill. It's an iterative process. That's what we do with our legislative process, and I'm thankful to be able to receive real feedback around protection of our First Amendment, which I believe is absolutely necessary in this moment in time, especially. And I look forward to being able to have a very strong bill presented to the governor, and hopefully he will sign, that will ensure that right now our immigrant community members are service providers are protected with the extension of the Safe at Home Act.
Okay. Anything else you think we should know?
You know, I would like us to just focus in on the fact that the activities of the last week and a half have created a lot of harm for members of my staff, for other legislators. The amount of hate and vitriol, and in some instances, death threats that people have experienced is saddening to me. And I wish we didn't live in a world where people were pushing misinformation and allowing that to be how we pass policy in the state of California, and certainly in our country. So, you know, I believe that people operate with good intent. And if you're a legislator walking around this building, making the sacrifices that you do to be up here, we should all be focused on good policy making. And that's what I'm going to stay focused on. I want to thank all of the co-authors and the people who have had to withstand a very challenging set of weeks. Certainly my staff and other staff who had to endure feeling unsafe themselves in this moment in time, and get us all focused on what's important, which is serving our communities.
All right. Thank you for taking the time to clarify.
Thank you.